Hey guys, tonight we step into the dusty streets of ancient Babylon, where the sun burns above towering city walls, merchants shout across crowded markets, and every step you take brings you deeper into a world that looks magnificent from a distance but becomes surprisingly difficult the moment you have to survive inside it. You are standing in one of the greatest cities of the ancient world, surrounded by temples, canals, palaces, and thousands of strangers trying to make it through another day. And here's the little problem. You probably won't survive this. Not because Babylon is boring. Actually, the opposite. Babylon is fascinating. But living here means dealing with extreme heat, strict laws, exhausting work, limited comfort, and a society where your birth decides much of your future. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're watching from and what your local time is right now. It's always interesting to imagine people around the world relaxing while traveling back thousands of years into history together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes. The first thing you notice is the heat, not the gentle warmth of a pleasant morning. This is a heavy, dry heat that seems to cover everything. The air feels thick. Dust moves slowly through the streets. The bright sunlight reflects from mud brick buildings, making the entire city glow with a golden color. You are no longer sitting comfortably in the modern world. You are standing in ancient Babylon, a city that once stood beside the Euphrates River in Mesopotamia, a place of incredible achievements, a place of mathematics, writing, trade, architecture, and powerful kings. From far away, Babylon sounds almost magical. A legendary city with enormous walls, beautiful temples, and impressive gardens. But history becomes very different when you stop looking at it from a distance. Because you are not a king walking through a palace. You are not a wealthy merchant with servants. You are simply you, an ordinary person trying to survive, and Babylon does not make ordinary life easy. You look around. The streets are alive. People move everywhere. Farmers carrying goods, workers transporting materials, merchants arguing over prices, children running through narrow paths, animals pulling heavy loads. The city is constantly moving. There is no silence here. Everywhere you turn, someone is working. Someone is buying. Someone is selling. Someone is trying to solve a problem. Babylon is impressive. But it is also exhausting. Your first challenge is understanding where you are. This is not a modern city with clean roads, electricity, and comfortable buildings. Almost everything depends on human effort. If something needs to be moved, people carry it. If something needs to be built, workers lift it. If food needs to be prepared, someone spends hours making it. Every convenience has a human cost. And you quickly realize how much easier modern life has become. You walk through the streets carefully. The ground beneath your feet is uneven. Dust covers your clothing. The smell of animals, cooking fires, and crowded streets fills the air. You pass buildings made mostly from mud bricks. These structures can be impressive, but they require constant maintenance. The environment is harsh. The sun, wind, and occasional floods constantly challenge the city. Babylon survives because people constantly fight against nature. The river gives life, but the river can also create problems. Water must be managed carefully. Crops depend on irrigation. Communities depend on planning. One mistake can affect thousands of people. As you walk deeper into the city, you begin noticing something important. Babylon is not just a place. It is a system. Everyone has a role. Farmers grow food. Craftsmen create goods. Builders construct walls and temples. Scribes record information. Soldiers protect the city. Priests perform religious duties. Kings rule from the top. And somewhere within this massive structure, you are trying to find your place. The problem is that Babylonian society is not designed around personal freedom. Your opportunities depend heavily on who you are born to. A child born into a family of farmers will likely become a farmer. A child born into a family of craftsmen may learn that trade. A child born into slavery may have very few choices. The idea of simply deciding your future is not something most people experience. Your life is connected to your position, your family, Your responsibilities. This is one of the first shocks of ancient Babylon. The city may be advanced, but it is not equal. You continue walking. Ahead, you see a busy marketplace. The sounds become louder. Voices overlap. People negotiate. Goods are displayed. The smell of bread, spices, and animals mixes together. It looks exciting, almost like a festival. But you quickly understand something. For many people, the market is not entertainment. It is survival. Every purchase matters. Every trade matters. A bad harvest can affect families. A poor deal can create problems. A missed opportunity can mean hardship. There is no simple way to escape difficulty. Babylon rewards those who have resources, and it challenges those who do not. As evening approaches, the temperature finally begins to fall. The city becomes slightly calmer. The golden sunlight disappears behind the buildings. For a moment, you can appreciate the beauty, the ancient streets, the sound of the river, the impressive architecture, the feeling of standing inside a city that shaped history. But then you remember something. You are not here as a visitor. You have to live here. Tomorrow, the work begins. The heat returns. The crowds return. The responsibilities return. And slowly you will discover why surviving ancient Babylon was much harder than simply admiring it. Because behind every great civilization are ordinary people carrying the weight of making it exist. And now, you are one of them. The City of Wonders. You step deeper into Babylon, and the first thing you notice is that the city is much larger than you imagined. From the outside, the walls already looked impressive. But standing among the streets, surrounded by thousands of people, you begin to understand why Babylon became legendary. This is not just a collection of buildings. It is a living machine. Every corner has movement. Every street has a purpose. Every person is connected to the survival of this enormous city. The sounds surround you. The footsteps of workers. The voices of merchants. The wheels of wooden carts moving over rough roads. The calls of people selling goods. The distant sound of animals. The city never truly feels empty. Babylon is always awake. You look toward the towering structures rising above the buildings. The temples dominate the skyline. They are not only places of worship. They represent power. They show the wealth and organization of the civilization that built them. The people of Babylon believe these structures connect their world with the world of their gods. To them, these buildings are more than impressive architecture. They are sacred. But as you admire them, you remember something important. Someone had to build them. Thousands of workers carried materials. Thousands of hand-shaped bricks. Thousands of people spent years creating these monuments. The beauty of Babylon hides the effort behind it. This is something you will notice again and again. Ancient wonders always have ordinary people behind them. You continue walking through the city. The roads are not smooth like modern streets. Dust rises with every movement. Animals leave marks along the paths. People squeeze through crowded areas, carrying their daily supplies. You have to watch where you step. A single moment of distraction can send you into someone else's path. The city is organized, but it is not comfortable. Babylon was designed for survival, trade, and power, not convenience. You pass by a group of merchants displaying their goods. Colorful fabrics, pottery, metal tools, spices, food supplies. The market feels endless. People from different regions arrive here because Babylon sits in an important location. The city connects different lands. Goods travel through Babylon. Ideas travel through Babylon. Stories travel through Babylon. This makes the city exciting, but it also makes it overwhelming. You hear unfamiliar languages. You see clothing styles from distant places. You meet people who have traveled for weeks or months to reach this place. Babylon is a meeting point of the ancient world. But being surrounded by so many people comes with challenges. Crowded streets mean crowded problems. Disease can spread. Conflicts can begin. Finding privacy is difficult. Everyone is part of the city's constant movement. You begin searching for a place to rest. But even ordinary homes are different from what you expect. Space is limited. Families often live close together. Rooms have many purposes. A place for sleeping may also become a place for working, storing supplies, and preparing food. Privacy is a luxury. Silence is rare. The modern idea of having personal space would feel strange here. As you continue exploring, you notice how much of Babylon depends on organization. There are officials keeping records, workers maintaining canals, people managing trade, scribes writing information onto clay tablets. The city does not function by accident. Behind the impressive buildings is a huge system of planning. This is one reason Babylon became powerful. Knowledge mattered. Records mattered. Organization mattered. A simple clay tablet could record important information about trade, laws, or supplies. Thousands of these records helped keep the civilization running. You pass near a group of scribes. They sit carefully, pressing symbols into wet clay. The work looks slow, but it is incredibly important. In a world without computers or digital records, these people preserve information by hand. A mistake could matter. A missing record could create problems. Their work requires patience, and patience is something Babylon demands from everyone. You keep walking. The sun moves higher. The beautiful city begins to reveal its harsher side. The heat increases. The streets become more exhausting. The impressive buildings do not protect you from the daily struggles of ordinary life. A palace may have shade. A wealthy household may have servants. But most people experience Babylon differently. They experience it through work, through responsibility, through survival. This is the difference between visiting Babylon and living in Babylon. A visitor sees the temples. A resident sees the labor. A visitor admires the walls. A worker remembers carrying the bricks. A visitor hears stories of greatness. A citizen feels the weight of maintaining that greatness. You stop near a busy street and watch people pass. A farmer carrying crops, a craftsman carrying tools, a child following a family member, a merchant protecting valuable goods. Everyone has somewhere to go. Everyone has something to do. Nobody is simply standing still. The city demands participation. It does not allow you to remain only an observer. As the afternoon arrives, you begin feeling tired. Your feet hurt. The heat drains your energy. The noise becomes exhausting, and you realize something. Babylon may be one of the greatest cities the ancient world ever created. But greatness does not automatically mean comfort. A city can be beautiful and difficult at the same time. It can inspire you while exhausting you. It can create amazing achievements while asking enormous sacrifices from the people who live there. As evening approaches, you look back at the streets you crossed. The temples, the markets, the homes, the workers, the endless movement. Babylon is truly a wonder, but tomorrow, you will discover what it means to wake up here as an ordinary person. Because the hardest part of Babylon is not seeing its greatness. It is surviving beneath it. Your daily struggle. Morning arrives in Babylon before you are ready for it. There is no gentle alarm, no comfortable bed slowly waking you, no quiet room where you can take your time. Instead, the city begins moving as soon as the sunlight appears. The sounds enter your small home. Footsteps outside. Voices in the street. Animals being prepared for work. People beginning another day of survival. You open your eyes and remember where you are. Ancient Babylon. A city famous across the world. A place of kings, temples, and incredible achievements. But for you, this morning is not about greatness. It is about getting through the day. You sit up from your simple sleeping area. The room is not large. Space is shared. Privacy is limited. The walls around you protect you from the outside world, but they do not provide the comfort you might expect. Everything has a purpose. Everything has to be useful. There is no extra space for things that do not help survival. Your first task is preparing yourself for work. Because in Babylon, an ordinary person's day is built around responsibility. Rest is valuable, but work is necessary. You step outside. The morning air is cooler than the afternoon heat, And for a brief moment, the city feels peaceful. People begin appearing in the streets, farmers carrying supplies, workers heading toward construction areas, craftsmen opening workshops, merchants arranging goods. Everyone is moving toward their role. You notice something quickly. Nobody is asking what they feel like doing today. The question is simple. What needs to be done? Ancient life is shaped by necessity. If crops need attention, you work. If goods need to be produced, you work. If buildings need repairs, you work. The city depends on millions of small tasks being completed every day. You walk toward the area where you will spend your day. Along the way, you see the difference between the impressive Babylon visitors imagine and the Babylon ordinary people experience. The temples are enormous. The walls are powerful. The palaces are beautiful. But most people are not living inside those places. They are building, maintaining, and supporting them. The greatness of Babylon rests on countless ordinary shoulders. You reach your work area. The exact task depends on your position in society. Perhaps you are helping transport materials. Perhaps you are working with crops. Perhaps you are assisting a craftsman. Whatever your role, the work is physical. There are no machines making the job easier. Human strength is the main tool. Every heavy object requires effort. Every construction project requires patience. Every piece of food requires preparation. Modern people often underestimate how much time simple tasks once required. A meal was not just something you quickly prepared. It involved growing, harvesting, transporting, grinding, cooking, and sharing. A building was not just something that appeared. It required planning, materials, and thousands of hours of labor. Babylonian life is built from effort. You continue working as the sun rises higher. The heat begins returning. Your body feels the difference. The morning coolness disappears. The streets become brighter. The dust becomes more noticeable. There is little escape from the environment. If you are wealthy, you may have ways to make life easier. But for ordinary workers, the day continues. You begin understanding something important. Ancient survival was not usually about one dramatic moment. It was about thousands of small difficulties repeated every day. A tired body. A difficult task. A limited supply. A problem that cannot wait. These small struggles define everyday life. During a short break, you look around. Other workers are doing the same. Some talk quietly. Some eat simple food. Some simply rest before continuing. There is no entertainment available whenever boredom appears. There is no easy distraction. People create their own moments. A conversation. A shared meal. A small joke. A story from someone who has traveled. Human connection becomes important because life is difficult. You notice that people in Babylon are not constantly unhappy. This surprises you. You expected everyone living in ancient times to feel miserable. But humans adapt. People find happiness wherever they can. A good harvest. A successful trade. A family gathering. A festival. A peaceful evening. Small victories matter, perhaps even more than they do today. Because when life is challenging, small comforts become meaningful. As the day continues, you begin feeling the weight of Babylon, not just physically, mentally. You realize there are many things you cannot control. The weather, your social position, the decisions of powerful people, the success of crops, the availability of resources. Your life depends on forces much larger than yourself. This is one of the biggest differences between ancient and modern life. Today, many people imagine controlling their future through personal choices. In Babylon, choices exist, but they are limited by circumstances. Where you are born matters. Who your family is matters. What skills you learn matters. The world around you creates boundaries. You continue working until the day begins to fade. The sunlight softens. The streets become less intense. People slowly return home. You walk back through Babylon carrying the exhaustion of another ordinary day. The city looks different now. In the morning, it felt full of possibilities. At night, you see the effort behind it. Every building, every road, every market, everything exists because someone worked for it. You enter your home. The space is simple. The meal is simple. The evening is quiet. But for a moment, you appreciate something. You survived another day in Babylon. And that alone is an achievement. Because ancient life was not difficult only because of huge disasters or famous historical events. It was difficult because every normal day demanded something from you. Your time, your strength, your patience, your ability to continue. Tomorrow, the city will wake again. The workers will return. The markets will open. The temples will rise above the streets, and you will once again become one small person inside one enormous civilization. A civilization that looks eternal from the outside, but survives because ordinary people like you keep showing up, surviving the heat. The sun rises over Babylon, and within a short time you understand that the weather itself is one of your greatest challenges. At first, the morning feels manageable. The air is cool. The streets are calm. The city slowly wakes, but Babylon does not stay gentle for long. As the sun climbs higher, the heat begins to take control. The bright sky becomes almost overwhelming. The stone and mud brick walls absorb the warmth. The dusty streets reflect the sunlight. Every movement requires more effort. You quickly discover that ancient Babylon is not a place where you can simply ignore the environment. Nature decides the rhythm of life. Today you can step into a cool room, turn on a fan, or escape the heat with modern technology. Here, none of that exists. Your body is your protection. Your patience is your survival tool. You walk through the streets carrying supplies, and the heat follows you everywhere. The air feels dry. Dust sticks to your skin. Your clothing becomes uncomfortable. Even simple tasks become exhausting. This is the reality of ordinary life in ancient Babylon. The city was built beside the Euphrates River, which gave people the ability to grow crops and create a powerful civilization. But the river was only one part of the challenge. The surrounding environment could be harsh. The land required constant attention. Water had to be controlled. Fields had to be maintained. Crops depended on careful planning. A successful harvest was never guaranteed. You look toward the farming areas outside the city. Workers are already busy. They move through fields. They maintain canals. They prepare crops. Their work is connected directly to survival. A modern person might look at farming and imagine a peaceful lifestyle, but ancient farming was physically demanding. There were no machines doing the hardest work, no automatic systems, no quick solutions. Every step depended on human effort. A farmer's day could begin early and continue until the sun disappeared. The heat was not just uncomfortable. It changed how people lived. Work had to be planned around the environment. People learned when to move, when to rest, when to protect themselves. The city itself adapted. Buildings were designed with thick walls that helped control temperature. Courtyards provided areas of shade. People understood their environment because they had no other choice. You enter a narrow street between buildings. For a moment, the shade feels like a gift. The temperature drops slightly. People gather in these cooler areas. They talk. They work. They rest briefly. Small moments of comfort become valuable. This is something ancient people understood well. When life is difficult, simple things become important. A little shade, a cool drink of water, a quiet moment after hard work, a meal shared with family. You continue walking. The city looks impressive, but the heat reveals another truth. Great civilizations are not created in perfect conditions. They are created by people who adapt. Babylon exists because generations of people learned how to survive in a challenging environment. They built canals. They developed farming methods. They created systems that allowed thousands of people to live together. The achievements are impressive, but behind every achievement is effort. You stop near the river. The sight is calming. The Euphrates moves steadily. Boats travel along the water. Workers transport goods. The river brings life to Babylon. Without it, this great city would not exist. But even the river requires work. Water must be managed. Canals must be maintained. Flooding must be controlled. A small problem with water can become a major crisis. You begin realizing how connected everything is. The weather affects farming. Farming affects food. Food affects the population. The population affects the entire city. One challenge creates another. There is no easy part of survival. As afternoon arrives, the heat reaches its strongest point. The streets become slower. People move carefully. Animals rest when possible. Everyone understands the power of the sun. You search for shade again. Your energy is disappearing. And you begin thinking about how different this world feels. Today, discomfort is often temporary. A hot day ends. A difficult moment passes. But in ancient Babylon, these challenges are part of everyday life. The environment is always present, always influencing decisions, always reminding people that survival requires attention. As evening approaches, the city begins recovering. The temperature falls. The streets become active again. People return to work. Markets become busy. Families prepare for the night. The same people who struggled through the heat continue living their lives. They adapt. They continue. They find moments of happiness despite difficult conditions. And perhaps this is the most surprising lesson from ancient Babylon. People were not simply suffering every day. They were living. They celebrated festivals. They built families. They created art. They shared stories. They found meaning. Humans have always been remarkably adaptable. Even in difficult environments, people create communities. They create traditions. They create memories. You look back at Babylon. As the sun sets, the city glows in golden light. The temples rise above the streets. The river reflects the sky. It looks beautiful, but now you see more than beauty. You see the struggle behind it. You see the workers who endured the heat, the farmers who depended on the river, the families who built their lives in this demanding environment. Babylon was not created by avoiding challenges. It was created by overcoming them. And tomorrow, another challenge waits. Because surviving Babylon is not about facing one difficult moment. It is about facing thousands of them. Day after day, season after season. For an entire lifetime. Food in ancient kitchens. Morning returns to Babylon, and before you begin another day of work, you face one of the most important challenges of ancient life: food. Today, eating can feel simple. You walk into a kitchen. You open a container. You choose from countless options. Food is available from markets, stores, and restaurants. But in ancient Babylon, food is not just something you enjoy. Food is survival. Every meal represents effort. Someone had to grow the crops. Someone had to collect the ingredients. Someone had to prepare everything by hand. Before you can take your first bite, many hours of work have already happened. You enter a Babylonian home in the early morning. The kitchen area is simple. There are no modern appliances, no machines, no easy shortcuts. The preparation begins with basic tools, fire, and human effort. A family member grinds grain into flour. Another prepares vegetables. Someone lights the cooking fire. The process is slow, but it is necessary. The main food source for many Babylonians comes from grains, especially barley. Barley is valuable because it grows well in the region and can be used in many ways. It can become bread. It can become a type of porridge. It can be used to make drinks. Bread is one of the most important parts of daily life. But making bread is not as simple as picking up a loaf from a shop. First, grain must be processed. Then it must be ground. Then mixed. Then shaped, then cooked. A single meal connects you to farmers, workers, and cooks throughout the civilization. You begin to understand something. In ancient Babylon, food has a story. Every ingredient has traveled. Every meal has required cooperation. You walk through the marketplace and see people selling different foods, baskets filled with grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, dates, fish from the river, animal products, spices brought through trade. The market is full of life. But not everyone has access to the same food. Just like everything else in Babylon, your meals depend on your position. A wealthy household may enjoy more variety. They may have better access to expensive goods. They may have servants preparing meals. An ordinary family has to be careful. Every resource matters. Every piece of food has value. A poor harvest can create serious problems. If crops fail, prices rise. If supplies become limited, families struggle. Food security is connected to the entire empire. The success of farmers affects everyone. You watch a farmer arriving at the city with his harvest. His work began months earlier, planting, waiting, protecting crops, managing water, hoping the weather cooperates. One successful season can bring relief. One difficult season can bring hardship. This uncertainty follows people throughout their lives. You enter a small kitchen again. The smell of freshly prepared bread fills the room. For a moment, the difficulties disappear. The meal may be simple, but it is meaningful. People gather together. Families share food. Stories are exchanged. A meal becomes more than nutrition. It becomes connection. This is something humans have always understood. Even in difficult times, eating together creates comfort. You notice another important detail. Ancient Babylonian kitchens are very different from modern kitchens. Cooking creates smoke. Fire requires attention. Storage is difficult. Keeping food fresh is a constant challenge. There are no refrigerators, no freezers, no simple way to preserve everything. People depend on methods developed over generations. Drying, salting, storing carefully, using ingredients before they spoil. Waste is limited because resources are valuable. A piece of food that seems small today could mean much more in the ancient world. You continue exploring the market. Merchants display goods from different regions. Babylon's location makes it an important center of trade. People exchange products. They exchange ideas. They exchange techniques. Food itself shows how connected the ancient world was. A spice from one place, a grain from another, a method of preparation learned from travelers. Babylon is not isolated. It is a crossroads. But even in a powerful city, hunger remains a possibility. The empire may be wealthy. The temples may be impressive. The kings may have great treasures. But ordinary people still worry about tomorrow's meal. This is one of the biggest differences between ancient and modern life. Today, many people think about food choices. In Babylon, many people thought about food availability. The question was not always, what do I want to eat? Sometimes it was, will there be enough? You return home after a long day. The evening meal is prepared. The fire burns. The family gathers. The food is simple, but after hours of work, it feels valuable. You understand why ancient people respected food so deeply. Because food represented effort. It represented survival. It represented the cooperation of an entire community. A single piece of bread carried the work of farmers, builders, traders, and families. As you finish eating, you look around the room. This simple meal connects you to thousands of years of human history. People in Babylon faced challenges you rarely think about today. But they adapted. They created traditions. They shared meals. They built communities. They found comfort in ordinary moments. Tomorrow, another challenge waits. Because surviving Babylon is not only about finding food. It is about understanding the world that controls your access to it. And in this ancient city, every meal tells a story. Working under kings, the next morning begins the same way every morning begins in Babylon. With responsibility, before the city becomes busy, before the markets fill with voices, before the temples open their doors, thousands of ordinary people are already preparing for another day of work. You step into the streets and watch Babylon come alive. The city looks powerful. The temples rise above the buildings. The walls stretch into the distance. The palace represents the strength of the king. But as you walk through the streets, you notice something important. A great empire does not run because of kings alone. It runs because countless people work every day. Farmers, builders, craftsmen, merchants, laborers, scribes. Everyone has a role. And for most people, that role comes with obligations. In ancient Babylon, your life is connected to the needs of society. The city requires food. Buildings require maintenance. Canals require repairs. Temples require supplies. The palace requires resources. Someone has to provide all of this. And often, that someone is you. You walk toward a large construction area. The sound of work fills the air. Tools hitting materials. People giving instructions. Workers carrying heavy loads. The project is impressive. Perhaps it is a temple. Perhaps a wall. Perhaps a structure meant to display the greatness of Babylon. From a distance, it looks magnificent. But standing among the workers, you see another side. The effort, the exhaustion, the endless repetition. Ancient construction is built by human hands. Every brick represents someone's labor. Every wall represents thousands of hours of work. Every impressive monument has a hidden story of ordinary people behind it. You pick up your tools and begin. The work is not complicated to understand, but it is difficult to maintain. Hours pass slowly. The sun rises higher. Your muscles become tired. There is no machine replacing your effort, no shortcut, no easy solution. You continue because the work must be completed. This is one of the realities of living in an ancient empire. The achievements of the civilization often depend on the sacrifices of ordinary people. Babylonian society is organized around hierarchy. At the top is the king. Below him are officials, priests, wealthy families, merchants, craftsmen, farmers, and workers. Each level has different responsibilities. Each level has different privileges. The king represents power. His decisions can affect thousands of lives. A command from the palace can create enormous projects. A decision about war or trade can change the future of the entire city. You look toward the palace area. It feels like another world. The buildings are impressive. The people inside have more comfort. They experience Babylon differently. This difference between the powerful and the ordinary is impossible to ignore. For many workers, the empire feels heavy. Taxes must be paid. Services must be provided. Orders must be followed. The system depends on everyone contributing. You continue working through the day. At times, you wonder what it would be like to have a different life. Would you be happier as a merchant? A craftsman? A person with more freedom? But in Babylon, changing your position is not simple. Your opportunities are limited by your background. The world you are born into shapes the world you experience. A wealthy child and a poor child do not begin the same journey. This is a reality that follows almost everyone in ancient Babylon. As the day continues, you see workers arriving with materials. Some carry stone. Some transport wood. Some prepare food for others. A massive project requires many different skills. Everyone contributes something. You begin understanding the organization behind Babylon's power. It is not only about strength. It is about coordination, thousands of people working toward the same goal. This ability helped Babylon become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. The empire could create enormous achievements because it had systems, records, workers, resources, planning. But those systems also created pressure. The needs of the empire always continued. A building project ended, and another began. A demand was fulfilled, and another appeared. The work never truly stopped. As evening approaches, you leave the work area. Your body feels exhausted. Your hands carry the evidence of the day. You walk through the city and see the results of everyone's effort. The temple stands taller. The market is full. The canals continue bringing water. The city survives. And you realize something. Babylon is not only a place of kings and monuments. It is a place of workers. The people carrying bricks. The people growing food. The people making tools. The people recording information. The people doing ordinary tasks that history often forgets. Without them, there would be no great empire, no famous city, no legendary Babylon. Only empty streets and unfinished buildings. As night arrives, you return home. Tomorrow, you will work again. Because in Babylon, survival is not just about finding food or avoiding danger. It is about understanding your place in a massive system. A system created by kings, maintained by workers, and carried forward by generations of ordinary people. The rules of Babylon. You wake up in Babylon and slowly begin to understand something important. This city is not held together only by buildings, workers, or trade. It is held together by rules. Every great civilization needs order. Without rules, a city filled with thousands of people could quickly become chaos. Babylon has laws, systems, officials, people responsible for keeping society organized. But living under these rules is very different from simply knowing they exist. Because in ancient Babylon, the law is not just something written somewhere. It shapes your everyday life. You walk through the streets and notice signs of this organization everywhere. Merchants recording transactions, scribes writing information on clay tablets, officials managing disputes, workers following instructions. The city depends on records and agreements. A simple mistake can create a serious problem. A disagreement between two people may require an official decision. A trade deal may need proof. A responsibility may need to be documented. This is why scribes are so important. They are the people who preserve information. With a piece of clay and a writing tool, they record the details of daily life, names, goods, payments, agreements. The clay tablets may look simple, but they represent something powerful, a society that remembers. You watch a scribe carefully pressing symbols into wet clay. The process is slow. Every mark matters. There is no easy way to erase mistakes. Patience is necessary. Accuracy is necessary. The written word has power, but not everyone in Babylon has equal access to that power. Education is limited. Many ordinary people cannot read or write. They depend on specialists to record important information. This creates another difference between people. Knowledge itself becomes valuable. You continue walking through the city and notice how rules influence different parts of life. Trade requires trust. Property requires protection. Families require agreements. Communities require cooperation. Without rules, Babylon could not function. But rules also create responsibilities. A person's actions have consequences. A broken agreement, a damaged piece of property, a failure to complete a duty. These problems must be handled. Ancient Babylon was not a place where people simply did whatever they wanted. The city was organized around expectations. Everyone had obligations. Everyone had a place. You enter a busy market. Two merchants are discussing a transaction. Their conversation is not just based on a handshake. Records matter. Promises matter. The exchange of goods requires confidence. Trade made Babylon wealthy, but trade also required systems. The city's success depended on people trusting those systems. As you explore further, you notice another important part of Babylonian law. It reflects the society that created it. The rules are connected to status. Different people may experience the same situation differently, depending on their position. A powerful person and an ordinary worker do not always face the same world. Social class affects many parts of life. This is difficult for a modern person to imagine. Today, many people expect the law to treat everyone the same. In ancient societies, status often influenced how rules were applied. Your family, your occupation, your wealth, your position, all of these things could affect your experience. You continue through Babylon and realize that survival requires more than physical strength. You need awareness. You need to understand expectations. You need to know how society works. A person who ignores the rules can create problems for themselves and their family. Even small decisions matter. How you conduct business, how you handle disagreements, how you interact with others. The city is always watching, not in the modern sense of cameras and technology, but through reputation, community memory, social connections. Everyone knows that actions have consequences. As evening arrives, you sit outside your home and think about Babylon. At first, you saw only the impressive parts, the temples, the walls, the markets. Now you see the invisible structure underneath. The rules, the records, the agreements, the expectations. These are the foundations that allow a massive city to survive. A civilization is not created only with stone. It is created with systems, people following shared ideas, people cooperating, people accepting responsibilities. But for someone like you, these systems can also feel heavy. There is little room for mistakes. A modern person might solve problems with technology, quick communication, or legal assistance. In Babylon, solutions are slower, more personal, more connected to your place in society. You have to understand the world around you, because there are fewer ways to escape consequences. As night falls, the streets become quieter, the markets close, the workers return home, the scribes finish their records, the officials complete their duties. Babylon rests, but tomorrow, the rules will still be there. The same expectations, the same responsibilities, the same systems that have kept this great city alive. And you begin to realize something. Surviving Babylon is not only about surviving the heat, the work, or the hunger. It is about learning how to exist inside a world where every action has meaning. A world where a simple clay tablet can protect you or create a problem. A world where knowledge is power and where understanding the rules may be the difference between success and struggle. The fear of disease. You wake up another morning in Babylon and the city looks almost unchanged. The streets are busy. The markets are opening. Workers are moving toward their daily tasks. The temples rise above the buildings. From a distance, Babylon still appears powerful and organized. But as you spend more time here, you begin noticing something that every ancient person understood very well. Life is fragile. A city filled with thousands of people creates incredible opportunities. Trade, knowledge, culture, growth. But it also creates problems. One of the biggest is disease. In modern times, many illnesses can be treated quickly. People understand how germs spread. Clean water systems protect communities. Medical knowledge has advanced enormously. But in ancient Babylon, people lived in a world where many dangers were invisible. A person could become sick without understanding why. A simple illness could create fear. A disease spreading through a crowded neighborhood could change lives within days. You walk through the streets and notice how close people live together. Homes are built near each other. Markets are crowded. Workers gather every day. Trade brings people from different regions. All of this makes Babylon successful. But it also creates conditions where illness can spread. The same connections that make the city powerful can also make it vulnerable. You pass through a busy marketplace. Merchants exchange goods. Families purchase food. Travelers arrive from distant lands. Everyone brings their own experiences, their own environment, their own risks. In a world without modern medical understanding, people often explain illness differently. Some believe sickness was connected to spiritual forces. Some search for natural causes. Some use traditional remedies passed down through generations. Healing was a mixture of experience, belief, and observation. You enter a home where someone is feeling unwell. The atmosphere is quieter. Family members provide care. They prepare remedies. They offer comfort. Even without modern medicine, people understood the importance of caring for each other. Compassion existed in every era. You realize something important. Ancient people were not helpless. They observed the world carefully. They learned which plants helped. They developed treatments. They created medical knowledge based on what they experienced. But compared with today, their options were limited. A condition that might be easily handled now could become a serious challenge then. You continue walking through Babylon. The city's water system becomes especially important. Clean water is essential for survival. The Euphrates River provides life to the region. But managing water is a constant responsibility. Canals must be maintained. Supplies must be protected. Communities must work together. Water is both a gift and a challenge. A problem with water can affect thousands of people. This is why organization matters so much. Babylon's survival depends on careful planning. You look at the workers maintaining the city. They are not only building structures, they are protecting the health of everyone around them. Cleaning areas, managing resources, maintaining systems. Small tasks create big results. As you continue exploring, you notice another challenge. There is no modern understanding of prevention. People cannot simply visit a hospital with advanced equipment. There are no antibiotics, no advanced surgeries, no modern emergency systems. Health depends heavily on luck, knowledge, and circumstances. Your social position matters too. A wealthy person may have access to better food and more care. A poor worker may have fewer options. Just like many parts of Babylonian life, health is connected to status. You begin understanding why ancient people valued stability, a good harvest, a healthy family, a safe home. These were enormous blessings. Because nothing was guaranteed. As evening arrives, you sit near the city walls and watch Babylon continue moving. People laugh. People trade. People work. People live their lives. And you realize something surprising. Even with all these dangers, people did not spend every moment afraid. They adapted. They created routines. They celebrated important moments. They built relationships. They found joy. Human beings have always been more than their struggles. The people of Babylon were not just survivors. They were artists, parents, friends, builders, dreamers. They experienced happiness, just like people today, but their world required constant awareness. Every day carried uncertainty. Every day required resilience. You return home as darkness falls. The city becomes quieter. The streets empty. The sounds fade. You think about everything you have learned. The heat, the labor, the rules, the challenges, the diseases that people feared. And you realize surviving Babylon requires more than strength. It requires adaptation. It requires community. It requires understanding a world where many things cannot be controlled. Tomorrow you will discover another part of ancient life. A world where your position in society determines many opportunities. A world where being born into the wrong place can completely change your future. Because in Babylon your story begins before you are even born.